Welcome back to Rhino's Resto Mods. So in the last video, we talked about this 55 two-door, and I'm trying to get to the point to where I can lift this body up off the frame. So again, the body is not sitting on any bushings. It's already been taken off by somebody previous to me. And the issue that I'm running into is the floors, rockers, and the door jambs are all in pretty bad shape. So what I'm wanting to do is lift this body up, and I asked for feedback in the last video, which I haven't seen the results to yet because I'm trying to continue to move forward, is, you know, what lifting points we should have, and what should we do to square this up or reinforce, put some material on the inside to make sure it doesn't go all wonky on us once we get it up. So today I'll show you some of the bushings underneath and how bad the underside is. I know it doesn't look that bad from the top, but it's mainly because they use roofing tar and tar paper and all that. And it, you know, just to look at it on camera, after I looked at some of the other videos, it doesn't look horrible. I mean, but it is horrible. So I'm going to take you underneath the car here real quick and show you how bad it actually is. And then we'll start working on the plan to strengthen this car up, the body up, before I lift it back up off the frame. And one of the things we're planning on doing today is we're hanging the doors, and we're look to see where we want to add any reinforcements and get that. I'll have to go out and buy some steel or see what I can find, but we'll go out and do that. And then hopefully by the next video, we're pulling this off and cutting the floor out. So let me show you a little bit about how bad this actually is. Okay, it's on the inside here. If you look, try to use this little stick here to point, but this is all tar paper. So when we get underneath this and you see this black, literally in some places, there is no steel whatsoever. It's all the way through. And then again, on the other side, not much difference. It starts way back here in this corner, and it goes all the way up to the toe board. And it didn't, not much here, but then it picks up pretty good right here, comes around here. So our whole rear floor is nothing but tar paper and brush on tar. So let's take a look at the underside. So we're going to start up here in the front so that you guys can kind of understand what I'm dealing with here. Is you can see this rocker here, it's all smashed in and it's pretty much gone. All right, and then here's the underside of the floor pans. There's, like I said, you know, this is a piece of galvanized sheet that's just laying across the top, and then this would be, you know, the second mount back. And then as we move further back, this is where the third mount would be from the front, so nothing there. And then again, more material gone out of the back, and then here's the other brace. So, and then like I said, is, you know, what I really want you to understand is that this pillar, this B pillar here, it doesn't really have much material as you come down. That's just part of a quarter that somebody, bottom part of the quarter somebody put on. So there's no real good measurement to go off of or anything on that. And then we'll look a little bit more on the back. Is when we look up underneath, I think another thing we're due today to prepare is I'll go ahead and pull off that back bumper, but also I guess this side's just as easy. Also, you know, there's no mounts in the back of the trunk pan. And then if you go up and look, you can see that up here there's no mounts there either. So a lot of people have talked about just lifting up the front, sliding in the pan, doing all that. But again, there's nothing holding the back of this on here. So this is why I really want to focus on lifting the entire body up off the frame. And again, like I said, I'm still waiting on some feedback from the last video I put out, is, you know, lifting from these C-pillars and taking this glass out and lifting here just so I can get it up. And when I have it up high enough, I'll just go ahead and start cutting the floor out. So the floors and the rockers are basically going to come out at the same time because there are no rockers. So that's all just tar paper and rust. So, but again, I think if I hang these doors and I get that all squared up, and then I'll make another little thing. I'll put some tape in here where I want to, you know, basically put a giant square inside of here and connect the front pillar to the back pillar, then side to side, and then front to back again. So I think that's the best route to go. And then again, you know, cutting this out of here and sliding that pan in underneath that. And then we'll worry about the trunk and all that later. So, oh, one other thing I wanted to cover real quick is, I'll take a picture and insert it too, is, so I was looking around for the door bolts and didn't think I could find them. And then I remembered, if you remember from the last video, there were these tubs of parts and it looked like a lot of door parts. So I assumed, you know, right side door, left side door. And inside these buckets, I actually dumped it out, started going through it, and I found all my door bolts. So prior to that, I was kind of looking online to see what size bolts and what the length of them were and stuff, or buy a kit. It didn't really seem real clear. So hopefully this will help someone else out. I've gotten tons of help from you guys so far. So I wrote this down. Basically, they're all 5/16 24, which is probably a lot of the problem with trying to find them, is that's the fine thread. And so I took some measurements. I couldn't find a scale, and then I found the scale, and all I had was my digital calipers. So, but just to, you know, to show you for each hinge, you guys might already know this, you know, that we've got these 3 bolts. So these all go in the, from the hinge to the door. So if you actually measure them, the length, overall length is 1.437, which is like 1 7/16. And then the thread, just if you looked at the thread length only, and they all have star washers on them, it's 1.25, so 1 1/4. And then next, you know, you got these bolts here. They got the square thing with the, you know, it's kind of a pointy thing on top of it there to grab hold of, you know, and those are like 9/16 is the thread length. And then the overall length is 0.9170, which again, I would, you can always make them a little bit longer, probably wouldn't hurt anything, but that'd be the minimum size. And then the last one, which is really hard to find, I could find, you know, bolts to use for there, but these tapered headed bolts, the Phillips head, they have the star washers. Oh, I'm sorry, the last one I read off was the taper. And then the hex headed bolts, which were these, are 3/4 of an inch long, the thread length. And then the overall length is that. So anyways, hopefully this helps somebody, because when I was looking around, I thought, you know, I could just buy a kit with all these bolts in there and just get them on the way. Well, when I was Googling it and stuff, it wasn't real clear to me what I was buying. So if it helps anybody, hopefully, you know, this will answer some questions that, you know, these go in here. Obviously, these are the ones that go in the back of the hinge to the pillar. And then these taper bolts, right, go in the front there. So hopefully this will help somebody else out, and they don't have to spend all the time researching the bolts, trying to figure out what to get and where to get it. So anyhow, when we come back, we'll start hanging the doors.
screw. Stubborn. Go. One down, 3 to go, so I'm sure you guys don't want to watch all that, but again, we're just go ahead and get this side started, and I'll get the door hung, and then just have these a little bit loose, barely snug them down so we can get some adjustability, but I guess that's what all you need to know, and that the 3 bolt holes and 2 at the top, 1 at the bottom, besides right and left side hinges. So if you didn't, I didn't know that, so I'm new to this tripod thing, so I'll pick you back up when we're hanging the door. So one of the first things I noticed with this door adjustment, see if I can see it here or get it here, is that this pillar here, I think you can kind of see where it goes straight up and it curves to the left right here. So I think this is Bondo. So one of the adjustments I had right away was it was hitting there, and you can kind of see how bad the gap is. So I did go over to the other side of the car and take a look at the same pillar, make sure, and you can see where this one is pretty straight up and down. So I'm going to take the wire wheel and knock that paint off of there and see if there's Bondo stuck in behind there. So take a look at that. So you can see now I went ahead and wire wheeled. There's a small dent right here, and it looks like I don't know if the factory roof's attached there with some solder maybe, but obviously here, coming up through here, it does come over. So there's even a gap behind there. So what I'm gonna do now, just so I can get my door right, is I'll just tap that in with a body hammer. If it doesn't move easily, then might have to try something different there, or just ignore it for now and get the rest of the gap, and then just this will just sit a little proud on top of it. So let's see what we can do here. All right, here's where I'm at with setting my gap. So I found the easiest thing to do so far using this engine hoist just as kind of sturdy in it is I stuck a 2x4 in there across the top of the door jamb, making sure it wasn't, you know, too long into the curves, and then looked like 2 of those door shims on there, or shims, wood shims, and it's got a pretty nice gap across the top, and there's just enough pressure just to hold it against the shims. And then this part of the door looks pretty good. That's just a shadow, and this part coming down. So again, from the stainless trim down, I'm not responsible for, because that's where they put in a patch panel, but basically from here up looks pretty good. And those style lines mark up or line up. And then on the other side, I have, you know, pretty much the same gap going across the top. And then, so this is where I used the body hammer just to tap it back far enough so it wasn't touching, but not to set the gap, but looking pretty much from, you know, about right here down, right, that this gap looks good. So I think all that looks good. Looks good across the top of here. This is, the door may be just a tad bit high, but with the way the gaps are and stuff, I think it looks pretty good. So I'm gonna cinch everything down now, get it tight, and like I said, I really didn't work on the in and out. It's mainly front and back, up and down. So which would be the hinges on the door side, I guess, for the most part. And so we'll get all that cinched down, and then I'll open and close the door a few times, see if we can hold this gap. So there's the final product of door adjustment. So everything's cinched down now pretty tight. Got a decent gap across the top. And then, like I say, down here, you got to kind of cheat it because this area here needs fixed. But if you look at the rest of the gap down through there, it's not too bad. I know it looks like it's a little wider down here, but that's just chips out of the paint. So, but the gap itself looks pretty good until you get to there. All right, we know we gotta work on that. And then the door came out, you know, it could probably go down a little bit maybe, but you know, the way that all lines up, I'd rather leave it like it is. So we got the one done. So now we'll go over to the other side, see if we can get a gap looking that good over there. I expect it to be easier because, again, this area up here has this little dent. You can see where they hit it with a pretty good, I don't know what the hell they hit it with, but put some pretty deep scratches in it. So, but we can fix that. Not a big deal. All right, let's go work on the other side. So I'm gonna try something different on this side. On the other side, what I had done was I mounted the hinges inside the pillar, right? And hand tightened all the bolts. And then I hung the door and slid the hinge, right? So this is on the door. And then I slid the hinge in. Then I fought two things. One, getting the bolts lined up, being able to see them move around. Obviously that was upside down, sorry about that. Anyways, so trying to move around, find these holes, hold the door, you know, use the engine crane to try to do that. So this time I think I'm gonna try it the opposite way. I already did the top one, obviously. So these two on the inside, I went ahead and, you know, they're snug, but not tight. So they'll be able to move with the hinge. That one there is just finger tight. I come back and tighten that one up when I get the other two adjusted right. But on the bottom, it's pretty nice, right? That you can put this in and go ahead and put all your bolts in and get it snug. Because what I ended up doing was, after I was inside the vehicle, was once I got my gap sat around the outside with the shims, was I just crawled in, obviously through this side, and went to the bottom here, right? Snugged up those three, and then the top two, right, up there. So tighten those two down, these three down, and it pretty much held its gap. So you can see how bad on this side the rockers are. But so I'm gonna try this one different, right? I'm gonna mount the hinges on here, then we'll slide that over the top of my engine crane and get those hinges in there, and then adjust things up, see if it goes a little faster. All right, now we got the driver's door on, so I'll show you the gaps I were able to get. This one turned out pretty well. So this is very much flush there, and then like when you look at the gap all the way up, looks really good. Remember, the other side's got the whammy right there I'll have to fix. But going across the top, all looks real good. And the body lines line up. And I got a good gap going down here. And again, down to the stainless, because on the bottom of the stainless, that's where they, hacked in a panel. So I'm probably gonna cut that out. But I think the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run a bar. So if you look on the other side, it's like 44 inches is the door opening. So I'm gonna take this kick panel off, and I'm gonna come down and run about 6 inches on this side, get some square tubing, and then I'm gonna run it all the way across, and just above the little circle over there, just above that. So I'm gonna weld it there and weld it here and make sure that I hold that dimension. So with holding that dimension and then getting feedback from that last video, I'm hoping I'll be able to lift this up. And then, like I said, I'm thinking I'm gonna go through these C-pillars here, take this glass out, just run some straps up to a spreader bar. And then in the front, I think I'm just gonna get I kind of like the idea of just using a plate with a hole in it and bolting it to the hood hinges. And that way it's out of my way when I go to, put all the bushings in. But so the idea is lift this up, cut the floor pan out of it when it's up in the air, let it all fall out, and stick the new pan on the chassis and bolt it all down and roll it back underneath it here. So just got the mess to clean up for tonight, and tomorrow I'll run in town and get some bar stock and or call it getting ready to lift it up. So appreciate everybody watching, and especially all the feedback. The comments have been great, so I really do appreciate that. I've done other stuff, just not a Tri-5, and that community is so helpful. There's obviously a big following on these, and I don't want to be the one to screw it up. So far, so good. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time. We should be lifting this up, hopefully, and pulling the floor out. I didn't get to today. Like I said, it's just a couple bolts holding that bumper on, but nothing else prevents us all from taking out the glass, will prevent us from lifting it up. So appreciate it. Have a great night. Thanks for watching.